Romanian forensic teams inspect the damage to an apartment block in the town of Galați, marking building debris and fragments of a Russian drone that crashed into the 10-story building overnight. A woman and child were injured in the explosion and fire that followed.
We all got scared. I, for one, was in the house. I live behind the apartment block. This happened at 2 a.m. We were all scared, all of us, my mom, the family, the children with this drone. We could have died. I'm afraid. What can I say? I'm speechless. Before it fell in the center of the city, what did the army do? What did the defense do? We are definitely not safe in Galați anymore.
Galați lies near Romania's border with Ukraine and Moldova. Russian drones have strayed into Romanian airspace nearly 30 times since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But this is the first time a drone has crashed in a populated area and injured people. Drone incursions and crashes in NATO member states are happening more often, including last week when lawmakers and other officials in Lithuania had to shelter in a bunker after a Ukrainian drone strayed into its airspace. And earlier this month, when 2 drones hit a fuel depot in Latvia. Romania's president called a meeting with his defense council. The country's air defenses were built before drone warfare became standard. The system is being upgraded, but delivery of the new kit is still 1 to 2 years away.
And until this equipment is delivered, we have both bilateral agreements and agreements within NATO for equipment to be located in Romania. Some has already arrived, some is yet to come. And in the discussion I had with the NATO Secretary General, I insisted on urgency, and he absolutely agreed that this equipment should arrive in Romania as soon as possible.
Russia has denied that the drone that hit the apartment block belonged to them. But with each new incident in NATO territory, calls for stronger European defences grow louder.
All right, let's go now to our very own correspondent, Teri Schultz. She's following the story for us from Brussels. Teri, how serious is this incident in the eyes of NATO at the moment?
Brent, they are taking it very seriously. It's been a while since a Russian drone actually crossed the border. Of course, we've had many incidents in recent weeks of Russia reprogramming Ukrainian drones to enter NATO airspace, but there haven't been any injuries with those. So this is seriously of a different proportion. And you've heard governments in all NATO allies speak out against this and blame Russia and warn Russia to take more care. I would note, except for the United States, the U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker, issued his statement without even naming Russia. He said that NATO will protect every inch of its territory and express solidarity with Romania, but he did not blame Russia. Now, I'm not sure if that was an oversight or purposeful, but everyone else's statements have been very serious and pointing a finger squarely at the Kremlin.
And do we know, is NATO treating this as an accident, or is the consensus that this was probably intentional?
No one is saying it's intentional. Of course, if you were to think that, that would instantly be an escalation. And I don't think that people do think it was on purpose. But anyway, there's no positive way to perceive this. Either Russia is not in complete control of its drones, which it's, peppering Ukraine with constantly, or it's not taking enough care in navigation. And neither of those things spell safety for countries along the front line.
And the fact that this happened, though, it is unsettling because we've seen repeated drone incursions into NATO territory before. Is this revealing gaps in air defense systems along the military alliance's eastern flank?
There are gaps, and I think when it comes to drones, there will always be gaps. Think about how small some of them are. Even some of the armed drones aren't that big. They move very quickly. They're constantly adapting. You don't need large equipment to set them off, so you basically can launch them from anywhere. And this is something that actually has been acknowledged tacitly by officials. You used to hear European Union and NATO officials talk about building a drone wall. That gave people an artificial sense of safety, that perhaps there would be some kind of impenetrable barrier against drones, and that's simply not possible. So now they talk about, when it comes to NATO, Eastern Sentry or Eastern Drone Watch. When it comes to the European Union, they're definitely trying to bolster these defenses, but I can't imagine that anything is foolproof when it comes to drones.
We know that Romania is asking NATO to take action. I mean, what options does Romania have under NATO rules?
That's right. There have been consultations today, not just with NATO Chief Mark Rutte, but also with the head of NATO's military operations, the Supreme Allied Commander, General Grinkovic. And what Romania has asked is for countries, its neighboring countries, to help it in any way possible. But also there have been discussions about bringing Romania's own national counter-drone capabilities under NATO command. That would increase the sensitivity, increase the speed with which NATO could respond. And in this case, 2 jets were scrambled. But a senior NATO military official that I just spoke with a few minutes ago said, look, there was only a few minutes between the time that the drone was detected in Romanian airspace and the time it hit the apartment building. It was something like fewer than 10 miles from the border, so they really didn't have time to react. Again, they are looking at ways to have more sensitivity and be able to detect these sooner.
So how quickly can NATO realistically, Teri, fortify its airspace, particularly Romanian airspace, because that's what is at issue right now?
Well, I don't think it's instantaneous.
Think, though, that this happened in Romanian airspace. I mean, is it important that it happened in NATO airspace, or do you think that Romanian airspace was chosen because there are gaps in the defense system there?
Of course, there are attacks all over the NATO, especially eastern flank. But of course, Romania, because for the proximity, for the fact that, for instance, this attack that basically hit an apartment in Galați was a city really close to the border with Ukraine. And we've seen how Russian attacks that happened of course, last night, 43 drones attacked Ukraine near the border with Romania. So we've seen all those attacks hitting Ukrainian ports like Ismail and Rein, which sit right on the Romanian border. So the drones pass very close to or into Romanian airspace almost by default. It happens also in the Republic of Moldova. So I think that Romania can detect these drones, but it's really important also to react. And the problem is that Bucharest doesn't have yet the necessary capabilities in order to basically hit those objectives.
Well,
of
Mr.
course, there
Pleșca,
were F-16 jets.
let me ask you about that. I understand that Romania scrambled fighter jets, and the pilots reportedly had permission to shoot the drone down, but the drone was still able to hit an apartment block. I mean, it seems that what we're seeing here may be something similar to what we've heard in the war against Iran, that conventional military weapons sometimes are no match for drones. Is there a sense right now in Romania that was exactly the case last night?
So the F-16 jets did respond for this occasion, and yes, pilots reportedly have had authorization to fire into this Geran drone. The problem is that an F-16 is the wrong tool for this kind of target, because a Russian Iranian drone flies low and slow, which actually makes it harder, not easier to shoot down. So if you basically fire and miss, or if debris fall on a city, because Galați is a big city in Romania, you could cause the very harm you're trying to prevent. And we've had other examples back in September last year. Romanian pilots chose not to fire for exactly that reason, because it was a problem for the civilians.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is that Romania simply doesn't have the right equipment for this threat. Of course, Romania has Patriot missiles that are designed for ballistic missiles, but for instance, F-16s are built for air combat, not for such drones. So that's the gap, actually.
There is this high level of caution that was exercised last night. Do you think that the Kremlin is looking at this and taking notes? I mean, is there a lesson to be learned here about this, abundance of caution?
Yep, and also the fact that Russia has tried to manipulate this event to basically present other narratives, to present these Russian drones, that it's confirmed it's a Russian drone, as a Ukrainian drone, and to basically try to explain to Romanians that basically Romanians should not support Ukraine in this war, because it could drag Romania to the war. So there are actually two narratives already being pushed. And I think that it's a lesson for Romania and for NATO, because these things could happen even more often.
Mr. Pleșca,
of course, Russia is facing the reaction of authorities.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.